Y'all, what's going on guys, Shinigami here, and as you can tell, today we got another Tiandi guide. You guys might be thinking, Shinigami, you're milking the Tiandi guide. Well, this is the second Tiandi guide we've had for Rework Tiandi. We've had 4 in total. The first 2 are outdated now. This one has some neat little tricks that I didn't show in the last one, because Tiandi's been out for a while. Some new tricks has been found, and people have been asking me, like, you know, how to play Tiandi and stuff like that, so I decided I'd just make another video. Now for the credentials, I'll show them right here. The #1 Tiandi on Xbox. I've been in the #1 series on Angelus' channel. Almost 100 days on Tiandi, because, you know, #1. But yeah, that's about it for this section. Now let's get into the meat and potatoes. Shinigami from the future, I forgot to add palm strike stuff. So with the palm strike, there's a variety of options. You have dodge recovery on it. You shouldn't have dodge recovery on it. I'm waiting for that to be nerfed. But yeah, it can make the palm strike pretty unpunishable at times. I say at times because the person has to be fast enough to punish the palm strike with a dodge attack. So I brought Peter Griffin in to have him do a dodge attack since it's slower and I'm tired. It's easier to show off. So here we go. There it is. I'm not doing that anymore today. That is broken, by the way, needs to be nerfed. Alternatively, your guaranteed source of damage from a palm strike is light. Now you can do a dodge attack afterwards, but there's no point in doing that in a 1v1. If you were going to do a dodge attack, only do that when you're being ganked, or in a team fight or whatever. That way you could do something like palm strike someone, then peel away. Now if someone dodges your palm strike, then they're probably going to try to look for the top heavy, or top light. So they're going to try to parry that. So since the light is 400 milliseconds, you can just go to a different side. But if you didn't want to do that, and you wanted more hefty damage, just do this. Do the heavy. If they try to parry, then they'll likely eat the heavy. Another thing I forgot to mention is when and when not to back up. Because since you have dodge recovery on everything, you can do something like this. Dodge forward, dodge to the side, whatever. But if you want to, you can go back to retreat. Why would you retreat? In case your stamina's low or something like that. So if you do that, then people will try to guard break. The overwhelming majority of the time I've done this, and they've tried to guard break me, they've missed their guard break, in which I get a free guard break on them. However, if your opponent is going to do a forward dodge bash, or like a light attack, forward dodge heavy, then all options will catch you. So that back dodge only saves you from the guard break. It does not save you from the forward dodge attack or just a simple light attack. The first thing I want to inform you is that your POV Dodge Heavy thingy, it's not as safe as you are led on to believe. Here's the Dodge Heavy I'm referring to. Like, ooh, you know, big bad Dodge Heavy. Oh god, Tiandi's doing a Dodge Heavy. What I do? Guard break. It works. If you don't want to guard break, then just do this. This also works. Even attacks like a gladiator stab, which happened to me yesterday, by the way. I was not very entertained. Even that will catch Tiandi's Dodge Heavy. It is not a get out of jail free card. If you are spamming this, it's not going to help you in the long run. Next thing I want to talk about is how to crush and counter. Tiandi's crush and counter has significantly different timing from any other crush and counter or like deflect in the game. Even though it's more similar to it. And don't even bother saying, oh, it's superior. I don't care. We all call them crush encounters. You'll get over it at some point in life. Try to do it on deflect timing. I'm going to get hit like that. You have to do it on like kind of a read timing. It's a lot easier to do it on heavies than lights because, you know, as I said, read. When is the best time to utilize the crush encounter? For heavies and zones. Sometimes parrying can be a better option, and I'll get into that a little later in the video. You can also do chain crush encounters, and I'll show you an example of that. Here's my friend Boo. We were in training mode, and I demonstrated the chain crush encounter. This variation works on Pirate and Magi because, you know, high recovery and armor. Can you do this on the average Joe? No, not really. However, there's another way you can do it, is in an anti-gank. If they're just throwing attacks left and right, you know, obviously, crush and counter. Just pay attention to your indicator, by the way. Crush and counter, and, you know, crush and counter, chain that, because you can chain dodge lights. You can also external CC. You might be wondering what an external is. An external is an attack that comes from an opponent that you are not locked onto. So if someone is to my left, just pretend there's a raider to my left. He throws an attack at me. My indicator is going to flash, you know, red, because it's coming from the left. I can crush and counter that, and it would hit this Tiandi right here because I'm locked onto him. Next thing I want to go over is the dragon kick options. So when you are dragon kicking, obviously someone is probably going to do a dodge attack. So either A, you can do just a regular dragon kick, and to follow up, of course. Or B, you can feint the dragon kick into nothing. Sometimes just doing nothing is the best option because 1, latency. You know how some people will be lagging all over the place and you ain't going to be able to catch them. 2, so feinting into parry will get you more damage since, you know, the dodge attack changes. Unless it's Tiandi, Warmonger, or JJ that you were fighting, because their dodge heavy is still punishable only with a zone or light. In that case, you can guard break them, or in the case of Tiandi and JJ, you can crush and counter their heavy. So for everybody else on the roster, when you parry them, parry their dodge heavy, you get a top heavy. I'll go over parry punishes later on in the video. Top heavy can also lead into another dragon kick. Now, due to the dodge attack changes that affect dodge bashes, now side dodge bashes no longer can be followed up, and you can no longer counter guard break if someone tries to guard break you out of a side dodge bash. Or out of a missed side dodge bash, my bad. So that means there's some things you can get away with if you're fairly fast, or if your opponent is fairly slow. Now, this doesn't work all the time, but like I said, if you're fast or if your opponent's slow, then it can work. So I have Lawbringer set to dodge, then guard break. So this makes the bot do a side dodge bash. And I have him set to block, you know, in case he can block it. So you can do something like this with the dragon kick if you decide to soft feint it. If you let it go, if your opponent is slow enough, then it can catch them. But if they're fast like the bot, then it won't catch them. The side dodge heavy, as shown, does 25 damage. Which is just 1 more than the regular heavy. So if you were to just like stop and guard break, I don't know why I did that. The side dodge heavy does 25 damage and the regular side heavy does 24 damage. So if you want to just do this, you very well could if you want to just play it safe. You get the guaranteed 24. Or if you want it to be cheeky, you can get to 25. This can also work on Gladiator if you're fast enough. It can work on Shigoki. Pretty much anyone with a side dodge bash if you're fast enough. Or if they're slow enough. Now, there's another thing you can do. This catches a lot of people off guard. If you guys watch my videos, you've seen me do it a lot. You can do this. If someone does a dodge attack, that can catch them. If someone just does a regular dodge, that can also catch them. Then you can also do this. Another thing you could do if you wanted to, soft feint the kick into a delayed palm strike. I'll go over delay later on in the video. And yeah, you can also like soft feint into like a dodge light or something. But you guys already knew that. I'm assuming you're all familiar with how Tiandi used to play. That's what we used to do back in the day. Along with, you know, feinting into dodge forward heavy. Next, we'll go over the more normie options. I call them normie options, flowchart options, whatever. So when you see a Tiandi do a kick, they'll do this. They'll either do that, or they'll do the palm strike, or they'll do the forward heavy. But there's more that you can do as Tiandi than just those options. If you wanted to, you could do this. You guys have seen me do that a lot. If people aren't paying attention, it'll hit them. If they do like a random dodge that they're not supposed to do, it'll hit them. But that option can be beaten by a light attack. If you do this, and then that, if your opponent does a panic light or zone while you're doing the heavy, you'll be hit. Now another thing you can do is this. You can do a light, that catches people, or you could do this. Now zoning can be great there for 2 reasons. 1, it's pretty fast. 2, it leads to your best mix-up, your kick mix. So you could just, if you got enough stamina, just continue doing that. Another option, don't do anything. You might be wondering, why would I not do anything? In case you want to go for a parry or something like that. Another thing, guard break. Why would you guard break? Because you guys already know, people who use full guard, they use full guard for everything. Yeah, you can palm strike that, but it's a lot better if you guard break it. Another thing you can do for mix-up reasons, you guys have seen me do this countless times. I'm the first Tiandi I've seen do this. I haven't seen any other Tiandi do it before I started doing it during the testing grounds or whatever. Whiff your heavy into a kick. You guys have seen me do it countless times. It works, because if you whiff your heavy, sometimes your opponent will just dash in, and then they'll just eat the dragon kick. Alternatively, you can, you know, obviously whiff it into a dodge attack or something like that. This one is not a demonstration, it's more of a public service announcement. If your opponent is low on stamina, do not go for a dragon kick. As you guys know, when you go onto the ground, your stamina regenerates. So what some people will do is they will allow themselves to be kicked so they can go on the ground, get their stamina back. The only thing they're doing is like eating 24 damage. They'll happily trade that for more stamina. That way their stamina is way above yours. You're forced to, you know, calm down a bit because your stamina is kind of on the lower side while theirs isn't. And I'm going to set Lawbringer to block because this next trick is kind of devious. When your opponent is by a wall, do this. As you can see, Lawbringer is indeed set to block. Now you might be wondering, why would you do that when you could just simply do this? Because this makes the kick kind of go back to how Tiandi's kick was back in the old days when it didn't have that. You can do this. But there is a downside to this. I'm going to set Lawbringer to light so you can see what I'm talking about. If you get him corners like that, go for another kick, you can get light out of that. So you should do this if you sense that light coming. Palm strike also doesn't work. Dodge forward heavy also doesn't work. So you pretty much have to kind of make a read if they're in this corner. You could maintain your frame advantage and just go for the light. The light is not guaranteed. I repeat, it is not guaranteed they can block the light. However, if they choose to press a button, then your light attack, which is 400 milliseconds, is significantly faster than their light attack on wake up. And sometimes something weird can happen where they just kind of block in the corner, but most of the times I've done this, that hasn't happened. And also you need to watch your distance because you need to be just at the right like space for the heavy to land. So like if you're right here, then yeah, it'll land. But if I were to move a little bit back, then the heavy will not land. Next, you need to properly utilize your delay. Tiandi can kind of delay a lot in his kit, and I touched up on this a little earlier in the video. So here's a regular chain light. Show it again. You can delay that. Like that. That's a 400 millisecond delayed attack. And from the light chain, here's a regular light. You can delay from the light. They're a lot easier to delay on heavies. Speaking of heavies, you can delay your chain heavy. So here's a regular heavy. Here's a delayed heavy. You can also delay your dragon kick. So here's a regular dragon kick. And here's a delayed dragon kick. Delaying attacks throws a lot of people off, but you need to know this about your delayed dragon kick. If your opponent decides to dodge the kick on a regular dragon kick, you can counter guard break, like this. But if you delay the dragon kick and do absolutely nothing, you can get guard broken, and I'll show that now. As you can see, I'm like mashing, or if you can hear it, I'll do it again. You might be wondering, what about if you try to do a dodge attack? So for palm strike, you can get guard broken out of that. For dodge heavy, you can get guard broken out of that. For forward dodge heavy, you can get guard broken out of that. For a regular light, you can get guard broken out of that. I'm not even going to try to demonstrate the heavy, the raw heavy. You already know you can get guard broken out of raw heavies. But here's where the magic comes in. If you do a dodge light, then you cannot be guard broken out of that. This is also a prime example of why we should not have dodge recovery on bashes. You can delay your dodge attacks, like here's a regular dodge forward light. Here's the delayed version. Here's a regular side dodge light. Here's the delayed version. You can delay the dodge forward heavy too. Then you can delay the side dodge heavies. So delaying the side dodge light is best for when you want to dodge a bash. I just need him to do a forward dodge bash, like that. You do that. Now light attacks and dodge attacks that aren't like dodge bashes or dodge attacks that come from Tiandi, Warmonger, or Kensei are all punishable with a top heavy. I'm just going to have Orochi do this. As you can see, parrying his light. Top heavy. And just throwing this in there because I mentioned it before, if you get a guard break on someone, it's side heavy. If you parry a heavy or a zone, then you can do a zone. Only the first hit is guaranteed, the second is not. And as you know, parrying the zone also leads into dragon kick, and you can do, as I mentioned before, feint, all that other stuff. Now with punishes, you should think about how you treat them. So if it's a 1v1, Orochi does a dodge attack, you know, obviously you parry that, you get the top heavy. There's nothing really to think about there. But if you expect a zone or a heavy, I would argue nowadays it's a lot better to just parry it than crush and counter it. Nowadays, I prefer to zone into kick just so I can get that strong mix in, because the kick is fairly unreactable. It's not immediate damage, but it does indeed chunk your opponent's health. The crush and counter, as you know, does 22 damage. I mean, some pretty hefty damage up front, but then, you know, it's what you do after that matters. From my experience, more people are afraid of the dragon kick mix than a crushing counter into anything. If you're in fours or, you know, you're being ganked, then I would argue parrying into zoning could work, because Tiandi's zone has some pretty good range. You can hit people from behind you, to the side, to the other side, in front of you. So let's say there's a raider to my right, Orochi throws a light, I parry it. Raider is ready for me to press a button, so he can interrupt me. If I zone, yes, I'm doing less damage to Orochi, but I'm hitting both Orochi and Raider. Now they're both in hit stun, and I can just, you know, I'm safe. I'm not taking damage from either two parties. An alternative is you parry into absolutely nothing. Your zone can also be deflected externally. Now I set Orochi to block, so I can show you guys the out of stamina punishes. So if I get a guard break, throw it on the ground, light, heavy, it's that simple. So there's another version you can do for parrying. So let's say Orochi tries to parry the follow-up from a palm strike or something. I can do this. You do a versatile zone and top heavy. Now you might be wondering why you should do that instead of light heavy. Because you can do this. Go into kick mix. See, with light heavy, the most you can just get is like this, and then they get up, you can palm strike or whatever. As I'm assuming you all know by now, you cannot throw a kick off of a heavy finisher. And the kick is honestly more dangerous than anything you could do after the heavy finisher, so yeah. So that's about all the tricks I have for you guys today. I hope this was enjoyable. I hope you guys learned something. If you want to get in contact with me, I got links to Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and Discord in the description below. In the Discord, we got the training room in case you guys want to figure out how to play certain characters. The looking for group section in case you guys want to find some people to play with. And the drip section in case you guys want to show off your best outfits. But yeah, embrace your dreams and protect your honor. Shinigami out, y'all.